Thought it'd be fun to take a look at my 3DS collection. These are just a couple of games that I have. Starting off, we have Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. You know, I actually tried to get into this one, and it's just too difficult for me. I'm not a Monster Hunter fan, but it looks really cool, and I wanted to get into it, but it's just too hard. I don't know what happened to the case, but I bought this new, probably off Amazon. Then we have Bravely Second End Layer. I don't think I ever put very much time into this or Bravely Default, but that was like really cool, so hopefully someday I get a chance to play this. Yoshis New Island. Played this a little bit. Didn't super grip me, but it's a fun game nonetheless. My daughter actually has been playing this too. Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. This one I played, I guess probably when it came out. You know, honestly, I didn't love it as much as people act like this is just one of the best Zelda games ever made. I don't know. I didn't love it. I didn't like the inventory system where you have like access to all of the inventory to begin with, and you have to like go rent it from the guy. I don't know. Maybe I didn't understand it correctly, but I didn't like that. But I think, you know, after hearing so much about it, maybe I'm gonna go back and give this one another try. But I actually did play this one and beat it. We have Return to Papo Croix, A Story of Seasons Fairy Tale. I've always been interested in this series. I don't know too much about it, but I understand it's like somehow related to Harvest Moon or something like that, or a spin-off. It's kind of just like a fantasy RPG kind of game. I put a little bit of time into it, and just like the graphics and everything looked cool. And Xseed, I don't know if they published it or developed it, but I was like interested in games that they did. So we have Pokemon Omega Ruby. I bought this one eagerly anticipating playing it, but I never really got into it. I never got a chance to play it. I had Pokemon Ruby on the Game Boy Advance back in the day when it came out, and I played it on there. I actually played through it on the Game Boy Advance recently as well, but I've never played through Omega Ruby or Omega Alpha Sapphire, but maybe someday I'll give that a shot. Epic Mickey. This was a game that came out on like Wii, and it was like super hype. Like, I don't know what the deal was with this game, but like there was just a ton of hype about this game. It might have been like a Wii exclusive or something, and it was like people are acting like it was like literally the greatest game of all time. I never played any of the games in the series, but I picked up this one, and I think it's kind of supposed to be it's like a sequel or kind of a remake of the like Castle of Illusion games. I think that were maybe on like Genesis or Super Nintendo. So it's kind of like a 2D platformer in that. It's kind of 2.5D platformer in that same vein, but with like the Epic Mickey kind of style and stuff. I put a little bit of time into it. I got this kind of like when I first got my 3DS. I think it was maybe a cheap game that was, you know, $20 or less, that it was supposed to be pretty good, so I picked it up, but you know, I wasn't super into it. Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D. This one's actually sealed, so I never actually opened this one. I must have just gotten it on a good sale on Amazon or somewhere. Oh, it's got a little tear in the plastic, but this is a game that people act like is one of the greatest games of all time, and this and the sequel Tropical Freeze, which I think is also on the 3DS. People really like these games. I've never tried them, but hopefully someday I'll get a chance to do that. This is a game called Cod Nam Steam, and for like the longest time you could get this game like brand new, like in the store, like at Walmart, I'm pretty sure, for like $10 or something crazy like that. And it's supposed to be like a pretty good game. I also think it was like one of the last games that came out on the 3DS, or I don't know. It looks weird. It's got like Abraham Lincoln. I honestly don't know anything about this game. I don't think I ever tried to play it. It's compatible with Fire Emblem Amiibo, so it's got all sorts of crazy combination going on. Here we have Super Mario Maker 3DS. I have never played any of the Mario Maker games. This one's actually sealed as well. Everybody really liked it when it came out on the Wii U, and then when they brought it out on the Switch. I think a lot of people still really like it. I don't know, I just never really got into it. Here is Majora's Mask 3D, also sealed. This is the Nintendo Select version, which I actually think is kind of cool. Because like for a long time, this game was like really hard to find and like out of print. It was really expensive. So when they brought this out, I think they came out at, were they $20 maybe, or $29.99 or $19.99? It was a pretty good deal. And so, yeah, this was one of the first ones that I picked up for sure. Although I never opened it or played it. I've never played Majora's Mask. I tried on the N64 a couple of times, and it always just kind of like scared me off. I don't know if it was too dark for me, or honestly the 72-hour time mechanic really stressed me out. Still kind of does. So I've heard that they kind of like toned a lot of that stuff down in the 3DS remake. So I'd like to give this a try. And I'm interested actually to see what they did with the 3D effects in here. Because I think that's actually kind of an underrated feature of the 3DS in a lot of cases. But here's one that I did play, Ocarina of Time 3D. Big fan of this. Just a lot of fun. Again, this was a game that was hard to find out of print for a long time. I think it was one of the launch titles or early game on the 3DS, and then it just was out of print for a super long time. I never understood why Nintendo did that. It was like, you couldn't buy their best games. I guess you could always get them on the eShop, and maybe they were trying to push people towards that. But, at the time, I was a big collector of physical games, so I definitely waited until the Nintendo Selects came out. And this was one of the ones that I grabbed. I think this was probably one of the first Nintendo Selects. And I did play through this, and I really enjoyed it. And I kind of found it to just kind of be easier, smoother playthrough than the N64 version, which I also have played to completion. Mega Man Legacy Collection. This is a game I got on sale back in the day, and it's just a cool package all around. Digital Eclipse was involved in this, and it has Mega Man, the first 6 Mega Mans on it, apparently. Some of it's 3D. I played this a little bit. I'm a fan of the first, some of the NES Mega Mans. Not like the most expert player. I played through some of them. And so I picked this up, and I just kind of think the whole package is just like cool. It comes with these stickers. That's actually pretty cool. Nice instruction booklet. Oh, free themes. And I wonder if I did install those, but there you go, Mega Man Legacy Collection. It's just a cool little package, and it was on a good sale, so I picked it up. Metroid Samus Returns. This was a game that I, was eagerly anticipating, or really excited when it came out. Big Super Metroid, or Metroid 2 fan. We had that on the Game Boy growing up, and it was really cool and interesting to me, but it was just too hard. There's no map, I didn't know what to do. I'd go in the lava and it would just start screaming and I didn't know what to do. I'd get super lost. So I played and actually followed the development of the Metroid 2 remake project, which I did eventually end up playing through and really enjoyed that. Really good remake. As a standalone title though, Metroid Samus Returns, I think it's kind of more like Metroid Zero Mission in the sense that it's not as much of a remake as it is kind of a reimagining. They added some additional combat like mechanics. It's kind of this 2.5D thing, and you kind of have to like parry, which I kind of think they continued that mechanic in Metroid Dread. I believe this is the same development team that ended up doing Metroid Dread, so it was just like a good kind of practice project, honestly, and it was fun. I played through it, beat it, really liked it. Cool game. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Back when the GameCube came out, Luigi's Mansion was a launch title, and it was just really intriguing to me. I really wanted to play it. It looked super cool. We didn't have a GameCube, and I never actually owned Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube, and I never was able to play through it. However, when they brought out the Nintendo Selects of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, I picked it up and I did play this. I don't think I ever beat it. I got kind of distracted. I was going through college at the time and probably ended up going through finals or something, but I guess I haven't kept up with the remasters and re-releases on the Switch other than Luigi's Mansion 3, but this was a fun game and I would love to go back and play through it again. Here we have a copy of Luigi's Mansion. This is just the original. So this was actually released after Dark Moon. This port came out. It was one of the last titles in the 3DS lineup, from what I remember. And I did open it, but I never put too much time into it. I look forward to playing this version of it, though. I debated, playing it in Dolphin, the original version in emulator. You can play it in like 4K, but I think I'm going to play it on my 3DS because I love my 3DS. Here's a game that I was actually it was one of the games that I wanted to buy my 3DS for, and I didn't get it until it came out as a Nintendo Selects, but this is Ultimate NES Remix. I believe there was a Wii counterpart to this game, but this popular stages from the NES Remix pack for Wii U, and then unlock Famicom Remix to play Japanese versions of these games. So they really packed a lot in here, and this was developed by the same studio that developed another game in my collection that I'm going to talk about, but I've never actually put too much time into this, just because, I don't know, for some reason the NES games themselves kind of pushed me away, but I think I'd like to go back because some of these games, it's kind of like, I want to play the original Zelda, I've never played through it, or, the original Metroid, but, realistically, I'm probably not going to play the NES version of those games anymore, so it'd be kind of fun to kind of re-experience some of those original NES games in a more digestible format, so I'd still really like to play that game. Pilot Wings Resort, this was a launch title for the 3DS, and this is actually, I love this game. It's a super cheap game, probably one of the cheapest, and a lot of people really overlook this game as just kind of like, oh, it's just the flyover mode from Wii Sports Resort. But I don't know, there's something more about this, and I think being a self-contained package on a portable system like the 3DS, honestly, this is one of the games I've put the most time into on my 3DS and enjoyed the most. And it's just something so peaceful and relaxing about the soundtrack. And then as you progress through the game, you unlock like evening mode and sunset and just really cool scenery. And then it's more than just a flyover. They have mini games. They have the jetpack. There's shooting and targets and all sorts of different things. So it really is a Pilot Wings game, just in the sports resort kind of setting, which I really like. I really like Woohoo Island. So yeah, definitely don't underestimate Pilot Wings Resort. It's more than just like a casual game. I think that there is a lot of gameplay here that would be attractive to a lot of different players. Here's a game that I have played through and beat, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. I've always been a big fan of the Mario & Luigi games, but I've never played through them until I actually just recently played through this version of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. And I really liked it, and I'm a big fan of the Mario & Luigi games and Alpha Dreams games in general. And I'm really sorry that they're no longer in business, but I did not play the Minion Quest version. I've heard that's just like terrible. I don't know. But the remake itself, yeah, they did a pretty good job, and I actually did kind of compare them side by side with the Game Boy Advance version. I just kind of felt like they had a lot of quality of life features in this version that makes the game a lot less annoying to play, so I'd recommend playing through that version. WarioWare Gold, big fan of the WarioWare games in general. I played this a little bit, but I need to put more time into it. I think it's just kind of like almost like a greatest hits collection, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So, yeah, big fan of WarioWare. This is another launch title, and in the same vein as Pilot Wings, I think that this is a little bit overlooked. I think there's a little bit more gameplay here than people give it credit for. And they were still kind of playing around with some of the AR stuff, which I think is worth giving a shot, like actually worth trying to do what they were telling you to do, especially if you have a new 3DS where the 3D features work better. I think it actually can be fun, even for a novelty. This game is probably, goes for $5 in the case, maybe, so at least back in the day. Maybe it's a little bit more now, but it's a super cheap game, so I'd pick it up and give it a shot. This is another one that was out of print forever, and it was like one of the games that I wanted the most on 3DS. We had Star Fox 64 growing up, and I really liked this game. Played the multiplayer a ton. Yeah, I wanted a remake of Star Fox 64. I'm a big fan of Star Fox in general, and for a long time there, we didn't really have any super good Star Fox games for a little bit. So having this on the 3DS, I think it was a launch title, or it came out pretty soon after. It was pretty cool. So unfortunately, I've never actually put too much time into this, but I'd like to go back and do that soon. Okay, so now I'd like to dig into some of my DS collection. This is just some of my highlights. I've actually sold off most of it. Some of these games I picked up loose, and so I've actually just ordered the cases from Nintendo. Back in the day, you could order replacement DS cases. I don't know if you still can. And then I actually printed off the labels myself and cut them out. So you can kind of tell they don't look super perfect, but it was just kind of for my own collection. So anyways, Elite Beat Agents. This is a cheap game, but when this came out on the DS back in the day, I was really intrigued by it. It has a song in it that I really like called Walkie Talkie Man by, I can't remember what that band's name is, but it's kind of like a fun rhythm game, similar to some of the other kind of Japanese rhythm movement games. So yeah, it's just kind of fun, bizarre, zany. I'd really like them to make another Elite Beat Agents game. I think it'd do well on the Switch. I mean, it could be a motion game. It could be kind of like 1-2 Switch, or it could even be a touchscreen game. I think they could do a lot with Elite Beat Agents, and I would love to see Nintendo have more of a rhythm game franchise. They have a kind of couple main rhythm games, but I don't think they really have a strong rhythm franchise. So here's a game that I don't know why that I necessarily own. Lost in Blue 3. There's 3 of these games, and I think none of them are worth playing, but if you're a Lost in Blue fan, good for you. I don't know why I was just really intrigued by the Lost in Blue series, and why are there 3 of them, and Konami, but I don't, especially this third one. I've watched gameplay reviews and stuff, and it just looks, there's nothing there to play. Here's a game that I'm a big fan of, actually, the legendary Starfy. Big fan of the Starfy series in general. If you don't know, this has a bunch of prequels on the Game Boy Advance. Or I think maybe this is kind of a remake of the original one, so they're kind of technically sequels, but this is original. I don't know actually where I picked this up, but yeah, I like the Starfy games. I never beat this game, but it's just a really cool kind of pixel platformer. Yeah, I would definitely check out the Starfy series if you haven't. This is the only one released in English in the US, so really cool game, Starfy. Here's probably one of the best games on the DS, and probably the best port of Chrono Trigger, unless you're a fan of the more recent ports. But some experience about playing a Square Enix developed game, published on a Nintendo platform, feels like the right way to play Chrono Trigger to me. This has all of the FMV cutscenes from the PlayStation version, but it doesn't have the long loading times. And overall, I think it's just a really good port. I have put time into this. I have not beaten it. I've never beat Chrono Trigger. It's high on my list of games to play. But yeah, for a long time, you could buy this game on Amazon for like $20 or $30. You honestly maybe still can. You could also buy randomly PS1 Final Fantasy games on Amazon. I guess they still made them, or maybe they still had them. I don't know why, but yeah, so this was really commonly available. I don't know if it's gone up in price at all, but definitely worth checking out if you haven't played Chrono Trigger or played that version of it. Here's one of my favorite games on the DS. This is called Contact, and I made the case for, or the cover for this. I actually have 2 copies of this. For a long time there, you know, in the kind of like the 2014, 2015 era, anytime I was like, you know, in a different area on vacation, I would always just go on the GameStop website and pull up, you know, the local GameStop. And there was just a couple of DS games that I felt like were like really underrated and really undervalued by GameStop. So I would go on there and I would look up, you know, if they had any copies of these games. And, you know, if I was in like a metro area, like they'd have like 10 GameStops. So usually I'd be able to find a couple copies. So this was one of the games that I was always on the lookout for. And I think I actually found even more copies of this because they would sell this loose for, I think it was like $5 or something. And I don't know that it's necessarily worth a whole lot. The problem with this is that it's unfinished. I believe that this was developed by Grasshopper, which has like a legacy with a bunch of other games that I've never played. But like really kind of prolific game designers made this game, or were involved in it actually. And the concept is really, really interesting. On one screen, it's kind of like a 32-bit, like Super Nintendo kind of looking RPG. And on the other screen, it's this professor guy, he's up there, and it's like 8-bit. And you kind of like can interact. It's like another kind of dimension. And the story is just really cool. The problem is it's kind of like half-baked. It kind of ends like really abruptly. So I think this is like the first third of like a really good game, but I think that they just kind of ran out of budget and steam to get this out, and I'm just really glad that they did bring it to the US. We're able to play it. So I've played this, I've beaten it a few years ago. I would highly recommend checking it out if you haven't played through this. We have Rhythm Haven. Again, this is a game, I like rhythm games, and I'd love to see Nintendo kind of choose a main franchise to continue. And maybe they have, but kind of feels like Let's Dance kind of took over the whole rhythm game era. But I'd love another like Dance Dance Revolution Mario mix or something like that. But Rhythm Haven is a cool game. I got this randomly at like a CVS or something, you know, in like 2016. It was like, you know, well, for some reason they had all these old DS games, and I think it was like $20, so I picked it up brand new and put a little bit of time into it. But I've always been really interested in Rhythm Haven, really wanted to play through it. So I saved kind of some of the best for last year, I guess. We have Retro Game Challenge. I played through it back in 2008 when it came out. I didn't have a 3DS or a DS at the time. My friend had gotten one for Christmas, though, I guess that 2008 year for Christmas, and I was just like a big fan of DS's, and he actually had gotten an R4 card with his DS for Christmas, and so I don't know, he knew that I was just like super interested. I had a DS Lite earlier, and I had sold it to pay for some other stuff, but just like really liked the DS system. So he actually let me borrow his DS Lite that he had just gotten for Christmas over sometime during the holiday break, and you know, I was able to play through a couple of games that I was really looking forward to, and this was one of them. When this came out, it was immediately interesting to me. What this is, if you're not familiar, is actually based off of a game, off of a TV show that I've never actually watched in Japan called Game Center CX, I think. And I guess it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of similar to like the Angry Video Game Nerd a little bit, but he has like challenges where he has to play different retro video games, and these are real games that, you know, Famicom games and things that he played from his childhood. But I think it's kind of like a mainstream thing in Japan. So this is actually based off of that TV show. But what it is you're actually transported back into like 1985. And you can see here you're hanging out with this guy from the show as a kid and your kids, and so as time moves on, different games come out, and then this guy shows up and he'll give you challenges you have to do. So it'll be like, you know, play through the first level of the shooter and get so many points, or don't get hit, you know, different almost like mini games in the way like WarioWare almost is, but they're like full games. Now these are not real Famicom games. These are new games that have been developed, but they work, functionally. I think that they might even actually be like NES or Famicom games that are kind of just running in an emulator, but really, really cool. And so basically what happens is, as you kind of are forced to play the game in different ways and get this many points, you kind of build mastery in it, then eventually you'll get a new game. Now, one thing that's really cool is part of it, you have a subscription to a gaming magazine. So it's kind of like Nintendo Power or Famitsu or something like that. So also periodically you get new copies of these magazines. And it's just really interesting the way that they do it, because they have, everything. It's like letters from the readers, it'll be like, hey, I just got the new Hangman game, Haggleman game, and it's so awesome. And recreating that, you're almost able to kind of go back in time and relive some of that experience. I had a Nintendo Power subscription. That's exactly how it was. I look forward to that every month and see the new games that would come out and the rumors. And they'll also have like cheat codes for the games. And so it'll be like, I think it's like, towards the end of the game, in one of the magazines at the very end of it, it's like, oh, hey, by the way, for like the first game and the whole thing, if you do this cheat code, it like transports you to level 99 or gives you ultimate invincibility or something like that. So really cool to like read through these kind of digital magazines as they come out and play through these games and do different challenges. Just really satisfying the way that they do it all. And then eventually you unlock free play, and there are a couple of these games that I did go back and play standalone. So there's a lot of different, there's shooters, a couple of kind of puzzle platformers. There's an RPG, a racer. So just a lot of really interesting content. And again, as somebody that's always been interested in NES and retro 8-bit games, but I have always been kind of put off by the difficulty, as they kind of like, didn't have some of the mechanics actually dialed in to know how to make it fun. This is like a modern recreation. This is just a collection of really high quality, 8-bit NES games that are new and really fun. So I would highly, highly recommend checking this out. This is one of my favorite games. I've played through this a couple of times, and you can actually see in here I've got 2 copies of it. This is another game that I would always, check on GameStop for. And then, kind of last but not least, I've got Retro Game Challenge 2. Now, this is a direct sequel to Retro Game Challenge, the first one. Unfortunately, it didn't sell well enough, so it never came out in the US. So this is I printed this. It actually looks pretty good, though. This was presented by Tiny Cartridge. You got this for being like a Patreon backer. They had Zarigani, lay it out and do it. So I had this printed out, and inside of it, I've actually just got my R4 card that has the fan translation on it. So this fan translation came out a couple years later. I think it's even better than the first game. It's hard to say for sure. The first game sticks just to the Famicom, while this one has Game Boy, and I think it even goes on to like Super Nintendo. So it goes through kind of the 8 and 16-bit era. So just like a lot more variety in the games you can play. I think they're both really, really good games. And this same game team, they went on to do the Ultimate NES Remix games, and then they were also involved in Super Mario Maker, if I remember correctly. So that is my 3DS game collection. Let me know if you have any games in your collection that you would like me to check out, and if you have any opinions on any of these games I shared, let me know. Thank you.